Good evening. Tonight's private consultation is brought to you proudly by Bespoke Post. Now, Bespoke is a monthly membership club delivering a box of awesome top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. It's free to join and you can cancel at any time. 90% of products come from small brands, many of which are based in the US. Every month they introduce their members to cool new products, outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and even live oysters, all based on a preference quiz that you can fill out. Every box of awesome has around $70 worth of goods inside, but costs you only a fraction of that value. You get a box of awesome assigned to you, and before it's shipped, you'll get a preview of what comes inside to decide if you'd A, like to keep it, B, swap it for another box, or C, skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. Now there are a variety of boxes. My personal favorite is probably the Weekender box. A beautifully stylish, durable cotton canvas bag, thick leather handles, metal hardware, and reinforced frame. It's stylish, it looks good, and it's perfect for those weekends away. The second I'd like to mention is actually the swivel box. Now, this is beautifully crafted storage box with a magnetized floating lid. You heard that right, a magnetized floating lid. Slip resistant feet so it's not moving around your desk or your cupboards or your drawers, wherever you keep it. Furthermore, it comes with a tigerwood rollerball pen, so it's a natural wood with a brass nib, and it looks wonderful. Really, really excellent. The third and final box I'd like to mention, maybe a tied favorite of mine, the aged box. Now this I have never even seen or heard of before, but it works so well. You can age your favorite cocktails or unaged alcohol, like gin for example, over a 10-day period. So you take your gin, you pop in one of these honeycomb white oak staves, and they can be used 4 to maybe 6 times, with each use becoming a little softer. After the 10 days, you'll have this smoky, beautiful, almost barbecue-y scent to your drink. You can also age cocktails with it. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's an excellent idea. It also comes equipped with 2 cocktail glasses, so you're good to go. I'd encourage you to take a look. To get 20% off your first box of awesome, click the link in the description below and enter the code articulate20 at checkout, or head to bespokepost.com/articulate20. Again, if you're anything like me, you like to have something to look forward to. It might be something worth looking into. Enjoy the video. Take care. Perfect. Okay, I didn't know we had that in stock. Welcome, please. Come in and take a seat with me here. It's my warmest and happiest pleasures to see you in our fine establishment tonight, taking care of the scent and the smell that people associate us with is imperative, but it's not something that everyone can understand. And even as you walked in, I got a slight hint of something beautiful. Don't be alarmed. But today we're going to help you select a new scent or scents for you and maybe a partner or a loved one. Excellent. Well, you are our last appointment of the evening, and as you may be aware by now, we work by appointment only. Alright? We take pride and take time investing in our customers and our clientele to ensure the single most memorable one-on-one sales experience in the fragrance market. Okay? To underpin this, I'd like to offer you a bottle of our 20-year Taylor's Tawny Port. Now, it isn't unusual to share a glass of something as you're perusing luxury brands. But in my experience, very often it's a cheap Sauvignon Blanc that costs maybe $5 or $10 and served with the idea that it's luxury. Well, not here. Now, port is an unusual choice and perhaps something you've never even tried. Typically served with a cheese board or charcuterie board, perhaps. But the 20-year, marvelous, really. Even if you're not a fan of alcohol, which I myself am not, there is a sweet delicacy in the taste of the 20-year ripening in those wooden oak casks. Has to be tried to believed. That sweet smell of promise. For you. And of course, it's never right to drink on one's own. Now, seeing as you are the last customer of the day, had a splash more than I would expect my juniors to pour. Now, I am Matt, and I am the proprietor of this little store. Start with a toast and enjoy. Now, the way this works, we have our little stand here, and we'll showcase each cologne. We go through the series, make a selection or selections, then move over to the feminine or perfumes. Now, I know that you are here primarily for a new masculine cologne. Really, one of the nicest things you will ever drink. Absolutely. Now, let's begin, shall we? We have all the time in the world. We're in no rush. Time is on our side. Nothing to worry about. I'll take care of everything. We'll explain, discuss, sample, decide. And no pressure. It's important to remember that this is a relaxing, unique experience where you can visit an establishment and take confidence in our ability, our knowledge, and our history. Alright? Now, we're showcasing the masculine products in a typical staggered price range. So the earliest to the latest in accordance with expected cost. Now it should be noted that cost can have a 10 to even 30% swing at different retailers. Shouldn't happen, but the fragrance industry has a way of charging what they like and ignoring RRP, recommended retail price. Alright, so these are approximations. First we start the Calvin Klein Man. Now this was released in 2007, and for me, for its price point of about $40, it's quite a complex piece. Okay, let me go ahead and spray your card. Now your top notes, and we talk about top, middle, and bottom notes. Top notes are the immediacies. When you spray, oh, that's a top note. They don't usually linger for very long. They're quite fleeting. They come and they go. Your middle notes tend to hang around a bit longer, can be present throughout the entire scent, but the bottom notes, they're the foundation on which the fragrance was built on. They tend to underpin everything and will linger and last throughout. Okay? Now, top notes. Violet leaf, rosemary, a little bit of mandarin orange. And I don't smell it, but apparently there's some bergamot in top note. And if you're wondering what a bergamot is, and you would be forgiven depending on, well, regardless, but especially depending on where in the world you're from. A bergamot is something, those top notes are fleeting, a cross between an orange and a lime/lemon. It's actually a cross between an orange and a lemon/lime. And the color has the same range between orange, yellowy green, but it's a citrus fruit. And the middle notes, recommended middle notes for the Calvin Klein Man, if I remember right, is incense, nutmeg, maybe some rose, little pepper. For its price point, what it's attempting to do is quite remarkable. It has a base note of sandalwood and maybe little patchouli. You'll be forgiven for not knowing what a patchouli is either. It's a little flower. Top notes are a little fleeting on the Calvin Klein Man. Those middle notes, the nutmeg, the incense, they hang around quite well. And there's that sandalwood. And woody notes are quite typical for the masculine fragrance. They really undermine a lot of, regardless of price point. You'll find that it's that kind of wood or musk. Very common. Okay. The patchouli is less obvious to me here. A great budget fragrance, a great entry point, will last 3-4 hours. In my opinion, you're unlikely to get a full day from Calvin Klein Man with just a few sprays. But an interesting start. Yes, enjoying. It's one of our least polarizing scents. Typically, people are like, yeah, it's quite nice. In the interest of learning, port is typically served in a port glass. This is a champagne flute. But sometimes tradition needs to be redefined. I think it tastes much nicer from a champagne flute. Agreed. Now, our next entry is Lacoste's Essential. And I was actually unboxing as you arrived. We had this ordered in specially for you. Here. Now, I mentioned prior that woody notes are quite common. And the Lacoste Essential is the epitome of a relatively budget entry woody cologne. Okay? But the reason it's so interesting, and the reason we include it in the showcase, is because of how fresh the scent is. Really, top notes. Bergamot. You'll find bergamot, again, is very common in both masculine and the feminine, because it's got this bite to it that carries across all ranges. Alright? But you'll find bergamot, maybe cassia, tomato leaf is the most prominent top note, believe it or not. Now, middle notes: rose, pepper, sandalwood again, a little musk, and similar to the Calvin Klein Man, the Calvin Klein actually has an amber base note that carries. This is much lighter, fresh, quite a linear scent, the Lacoste. Again, it's uncomplicated in what it's trying to do, and in my opinion, it does it really quite well. Sandalwood makes an odd but seemingly simple amalgamation with the tomato leaf. Now, I don't like tomatoes, and tomato leaf might sound a bit abstract, but if you were to smell a tomato leaf and compare it with a Lacoste Essential, you definitely understand where it comes from. The rose and pepper, again, quite prevalent. These are middle notes. Uncomplex, uncomplicated. The Lacoste Essential. Again, a beautiful and wonderful entry into our world. Really quite common, and common for a reason, not common in a derogatory sense, common in the sense that it pairs very well with any attire. It's light. It almost has a hint of spring, summer to it. I wouldn't classify this as a winter fragrance. A little bit too light, but refreshing and interesting. Calvin Klein Man is a more complex scent because of the musk and the amber that's in it. It has a little cypress tree in the Calvin Klein Man as well, if I remember right. It's not apparent in the scent, but its ingredient list much more extensive. And that's surprising because it is slightly cheaper typically. But it's the longevity that you'll lose out a little bit. So if you're happy to carry the Calvin Klein Man with you, or you're engaged for only a couple of hours, great choice. If you're looking for something fresh and de-risking your cologne, the Essential is also a great choice. Okay? When I mean de-risking, I mean there are a few items in the showcase that are polarizing, is the appropriate word. Love or hate. Typically, most people love, but there will be one or two that are like, oh, I don't like that. That's too something. The Lacoste Essential is the opposite. Inoffensive. Quite easy to enjoy. Okay? Now we step up a little bit in our price point. Now this is Hugo Boss's Bottled Night. Beautiful two-tone, scaling into that kind of dark blue. Famous Boss cylindrical bottle. Now this is a slightly more premium product. Now if you take your time here, the top notes here are lavender and birch. Originated in 2010. Middle notes, violet. That's all it is, just that violet scent. Your bottom notes comprising of that woody scent with a heavy musk. But the lavender and the birch as top notes, for me, almost transition into a middle note. Really, they carry over a little further, enjoying the violet is an off middle note, I would call. Again, a more robust scent, a small assault on the senses when you smell it, unlike the Calvin Klein and the Lacoste, which were more passive, a little bit more delicate, inoffensive is the correct categorization of these. The Hugo Boss, a little more present in the moment. That violet really shining through, taking the birch, more of the birch with it, and that musk, woodsy undertone, serving as an interesting base note. Really, quite beautiful. What were your thoughts on the Hugo Boss? Bottled Night is quite a cheeky name in itself. Almost alluring. It's quite a subtly aggressive scent, and for me, a nice staple to have in your aftershave or cologne collection. Wouldn't be my go-to, but it's a great option. All right, really, and it will last. Okay, it'll last for hours. Well made, a little bit more expensive. Okay. Now, this usually features in all of our showcases because it's should be a staple in any fragrance outlet worth their salt. The Sauvage is, again, a significant step up in price point, but an equally significant step up in complexity. Okay. Now this actually only came out in 2015. You'll see a little Calabrian bergamot, that orange citrus. Quite a lot of pepper in the top note. A lot of pepper in that top note. Less of the bergamot for me. The lid is also magnetized, which is really quite clever. But the middle notes, much more convoluted. A little pink pepper. Some pink violet, patchouli in there for sure. There's a lot happening here. To me, that pepper top note carries all the way through, right down to your base notes, and it's a complex base note. Cedar, little sandalwood in there, maybe labdanum. If you know the shrub geranium, there's definitely geranium in the middle note, transitioning over to base note. The Sauvage, of course, being a Dior product, prides itself on presenting an exclusive yet somehow accessible scent. Really, the lavender complementing that pink pepper, little hint of geranium. Really quite a marvelous accomplishment, considering Dior, not primarily known as a fragrance distributor, manufacturer, but are known for their clothing brand perhaps. But here, the 2015 Sauvage is really quite legendary. Perhaps one of the most purchased scents in all the world. And it's easy to understand why. Not deeply convoluted, but picking up hints of that pink pepper, that introduction almost of like that lavender. That, again, connotations of lavender are gentle, sleepy almost, but it coincides with these darker, richer colors into almost at its price point, a perfect cologne, and it'll last and linger for quite some time. Okay, but again, can range from $80 to $130 for a bottle of this size. Isn't cheap. Okay, but it should last. You can use it relatively sparingly. Okay? Excellent. And I do love magnetized lid. Relatively inexpensive to implement, by the way, if you know anything about the manufacturing process. But really, quite inventive. Now, we raise the price point again here. And again, another primarily fashion brand, Hermes. Now this Terre d'Hermes, made in France, is an interesting one, and it's one I think you are going to like. Screw top lid. Beautiful. You'll enjoy this. Top notes, spicy wood scent. Orange and grapefruit right out of the box. Middle notes, maybe a little, some pepper, some flint in there, that kind of granity scent. Vetiver, cedar, patchouli. What is most surprising to me about this scent is how, while they have quite an extensive ingredient list, it's the pepper that wins out for me. And the pepper is introduced as a top note, okay, but it lingers right down to that cedar base, little benzoin. Really, and the patchouli. And again, you'll notice patchouli is really quite common throughout, because it just blends so well with seemingly everything. This actually won Fragrance of the Year, I think, in 2007, and it was launched in 2006. And it's easy to understand why. It really is unlike anything you've smelled so far. That spicy, slight floral introduction with those pepper undertones. Really, quite a marvel, actually. It's extremely well thought of in the industry, and came as a huge surprise in 2006. People didn't expect Hermes to be able to cultivate something so majestic, and that's what it is. Not at a similar price point to the one prior, but you get far less in the casing. Okay, so per mil, really quite expensive. Again, it will last. If you sprayed this on a t-shirt that you wore for a couple hours, came home, put it away, took it out in a couple of weeks, you would still smell it. Really, if you went to sleep after wearing this for a day, it'll be a little bit on your pillow, on your duvet, and your partner will probably love you for it. They'll associate this smell with you. Okay? My wife has an association that we'll come on to with me because it's all I wear now. Historically, I was always a Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male. While I still put great stock in the Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male, I had a bit of an issue with its inconsistency because it's a very complex scent, and for whatever reason, it didn't always interact well with my skin. It didn't leave any irritation, it just didn't smell consistently the same. So after 10 or so years, I transitioned out. But I didn't feature in this lineup because I lost a little faith in it, but still a beautiful scent. But the Hermes, really something to consider. If you can buy this without inconveniencing yourself, it's a great, great spicy note to have in your selection. I think I'll move on to the penultimate option. This is actually still boxed. This is Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade, or Nomad, depending on your pronunciation. This is a new box. And of course, at its price point, you would expect a premium packaging. And in fairness, Louis Vuitton does not disappoint. Relatively simplified bottle. Looks almost alchemical in nature, like a Victorian alchemist. This you're going to love. Now the price point for what I think was 2012, anything northwards of $350 to maybe $400 for something this size. Now it's a lot for what it is, which is a cologne. It's incredibly expensive and shouldn't be considered unless you happen to have some excess. Okay, no pressure. But let's assume that for whatever reason, money today isn't going to be an issue. This is the most masculine, the boldest. It's brazenly masculine. I'm excited for you to try this, actually. Wow, it will fill the entire store, by the way. Just that one spray. Now, the most obvious and startling point of the Ombre Nomade is that it almost completely abandons top, middle, and bottom notes, and instead it just engulfs you in this tidal wave of intense leather, saffron, some musk in there, a lot of rosewood. if you've ever been anywhere in the Middle East, you were in a mall, shopping center, you would smell oud, this very rich wood-like scent. The ombre nomade, very similar. And oud as an undertone with this invigorating uplift of almost like a tanned leather. Really, with a transition into rose. And that wood scent is interesting and quite subtle. Now, saffron is the most expensive herb and spice in the world. And it has a definite saffron note to it. And if you were to actually look up the ingredient list of Louis Vuitton's little baby here, it's extensive. It's prime luxury, and it smells every inch of the executive. Now, I will warn, considering its price point, you would expect an overwhelming wave of positivity. And some people won't like it. It's not often. Typically, whenever I wear this, which is every day, people will say how nice whatever that is smells. I've never once had someone say they didn't like it, but I know from friends, it isn't for everyone. It is engulfing. It is very strong. But just the embodiment of masculinity. Really, really, a tidal wave is the only way I can describe the onrush of that musk, oud, and then that rose that comes. Quite likely the perfect cologne. Okay, and at the ridiculous price point, you would expect nothing less than perfection. But I would caution anyone buying this online that it's not duplicated. Buy it in a established brand and smell it before you buy it, because it's not for everyone. But my personal favorite, and a little bit, goes a very, very, very long way. This will last you a long time. Alright? It won't last as long for the same amount of money as the others. It is very expensive, but it's beautiful. It's decadent. Alright? And again, from a clothes designer, very, very impressive. Now, I have one more inclusion for the masculine. It's actually entirely gender neutral, but I wanted to show you it. And all I can say, this is our gift to you today. This is Alexandre J's The Collector. Now, this is beautiful. It's what's called a bullet cologne. A small amount. Now, we don't include this with every showcase. I'll only spray your card because this belongs to you and I don't want to use your aftershave. Now, this is an interesting delicate little serving. If you think of, I can still smell it. It's beautiful. It's a playful little scent, gender neutral, made primarily from agar wood or oud, but not anywhere near the ombre nomade. It's much, much lighter. There's some vetiver, some sandalwood in there, again underpinned by the oud, but it's much lighter, much, much lighter. There's also some oak, a little moss in there, and the reason we decided to gift it to you today was because quite often people smell the ombre nomade and really can't justify spending that much money on it. So we like to give the oud-based baby brother as our gift to you. Now, the smells are not comparable, but they do share the oud base. So if you're interested, this is for you. I'll have it packed. And whatever you do or don't buy today, this is yours to keep. It has quite a sunny disposition. There's like a solar scent to it that's quite interesting. It was launched in 2012 and is very popular. Rather expensive, yes, but used in very small amounts. Okay? Yes. Of course. Of course. Yes. Mm-hmm. 2 bottles. Absolutely. I'll have that packaged up for you. Excellent, and I'm glad we could find something that worked for you. Now we have 4 feminine products to review. So if you're ready, we can jump right into it. Do you need some more port? I'd encourage you to drink it. Just sets a nice little tone to the whole experience, doesn't it? Now, let's start off with the Marc Jacobs with a fully interlocked chain, by the way. Marc Jacobs, Decadence. Now, you'll notice right off the bat the crocodile print for the lid, the locking gold-plated chain. It's not solid gold, but it does have gold in it, and the tassels. And all of this is really calling to the true nature of decadence. Let me spray a little bit for you. This is a complex. A very complex, almost caramelized scent. Really, really quite unique. It has that saffron scent, not too dissimilar to the Ombre Nomade, but much lighter. Something sweet, like a plum, saffron and plum top notes. Maybe jasmine. There's a lot of jasmine in the middle notes. Some papyrus in there. Papyrus is an unusual scent to pick up, but decadence isn't accidentally named. It's a very long ingredient list, and I suppose it's quite a polarizing perfume. My wife likes this very much. My wife smells amazing in almost anything, but to me it's a little heavy. But some people like that. It doesn't carry the oud in the same way as some other heavy oud fragrances. It offsets it with a sweetness that for some people is absolutely perfect and they love it, and that should be considered. Okay. But I do, again, categorize this as a polarizing piece. But interesting and inviting in its own way. Quite a sweet, that plum fragrance with the jasmine. There's almost a, as I mentioned before, a caramelization, sweetness that is envelops and engulfs to a smaller extent. But it's a guaranteed win. And of course, in such a lavish packaging, it's always a great gift. Nobody is going to dislike receiving Marc Jacobs Decadence. It's just, yeah, it's a great gift to give and to receive. Now, in the theme of lavish, this Carolina Herrera, good girl. My wife loves this stuff. I'm interested to see what your reaction is, because it smells wonderful. Oof, beautiful. Now these top notes especially for Carolina Herrera, are always interesting. Just remarkable. Almond, a little bit of pecan, molasses, a little bergamot, lemon, that citrusy note. And again, this is one of these, a very small wave crashing over your ankles. It's delightful, it's playful, and iconically named Good Girl. I think this might be Carolina Herrera's finest work. My favorite fragrance, at least from her. Quite a lot of jasmine, sambec in here, vanilla, praline, lots of sweetness. Still with that almond fleeting past with each whiff. There's also a slight suggestion of cinnamon. Just a little bit of cinnamon in there. A little bit of iris, maybe. Iris is a little plant, little purple flower. Really incredibly complex, actually. A masterworks as far as my palate is concerned. And it lasts for seemingly days. It's not my wife's go-to, but she does love it very much. And I would hazard a guess that almost anybody would enjoy it. Almost anybody. That sweetness might deter a few people. Wonderfully presented as well, in what I assume is like a 6-inch stiletto. Now, the penultimate. And what I will say, this is the workhorse of the perfume industry. Very popular, very reliable. Gucci, guilty. Not 1,000 miles away. Not 1,000 miles away from. Not 1,000 miles away from the Alexandre J free collectible that we gave away to you. An oud base. Inviting. But quite a lot of subtleties. A bit of coffee. Lemon, maybe. Pink peppers. Patchouli. It is very popular. And you can see why. It's easy to smell. But has a complexity that makes you go back for a second smell. That bergamot doing a lot of work as middle note. Really, it's a feminine note, but it definitely has traits of the masculine, that muskiness to it. Really, very well made and well rounded. Gucci again, a lot of these clothing designers making exceptional work, understanding complexities between balancing and designing and really delivering. Quite an interesting selection, actually. Now, to finish, I find myself reaching for the Hermes again. Now this is Jour de Hermes. And for me, for a feminine scent, the Regal Gold Cap. This is close to perfection. Now, this has a very interesting flavor profile. Now, this doesn't smell as amazing as some of the perfumes we've shown already. But what it does do is offer an inoffensive, beautiful ensemble of a fresh spring, bright sunny day. If you can think of white flowers, gardenia, something more relatable, maybe a little bit of wood, a touch of sweet pea in there. It almost has a fresh water scent. Now, water is scentless. But think of connotations. That's what it invokes. It's got a sweetness to it, a little citrus behind it. Underpinned by a musk, a woody musk that almost comes unbidden, just appears on the underside. Really quite masterful. It's 2013. And I do wonder if it's been refined over the years, because I remember smelling it maybe 3-4 years ago. And it seems either I've changed or the scent has changed subtly. I don't know if Hermes refined it a little bit, but for the better. Now, to me, it's one of the most accessible high-end perfumes available. It's not, again, it doesn't smell better than anything else. It's just wonderfully neutral and perfectly feminine, without being explicitly so. It's not a sultry perfume. It's not like the Marc Jacobs, which is sultry in its nature. This is almost femininely neutral. It's gentle and it's easy, but enjoyable. Again, beautifully encased in typical Hermes fashion. Really, quite an interesting selection, actually. If it's something that you don't mind being present but not being emboldened by the fragrance, and that can be perfectly fine. It's a very popular perfume, and I can see why, but entirely up to you, of course. Of course, let me take a note. One bottle. Okay. Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you. No. We are done. Please, if you go to the counter at the entrance, we'll have everything boxed for you. The little gift by Alexandra. Thank you so much for making the appointment. It's always an absolute pleasure and an honor to see you. Spend time talking about something that we both love, and something that enriches our lives and enriches those around us. Who doesn't love that when you're walking past someone and you get this beautiful waft, this beautiful scent, and you're like, wow. And of course, scent is one of the first things we notice about someone. We talk about body language being quite prevalent, but the scent of somebody can speak louder than 10,000 words. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving up your time and coming share some with us today. I think your selections are fantastic, and I wish you all the luck. And I can't wait for your next visit to hear about some of the events or moments that you wore these in, or people complimented you and say, hey, you smell amazing, and you're like, yes. Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Please do take care. Sleep well. Sleep well. Sleep well. I'll see you soon.